Hey there, Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where, of course, I take a topic, a strategy, something that we use in autism fitness programming, and apply it in a way that hopefully works for you in your own fitness and adapted PE programs. And in this particular in this edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, I'm going to be talking about prioritizing exercises, how we use the information that we have about the athlete in putting together their program in the most meaningful and effective way. And of course, before I start all that, definitely please subscribe, and share these videos with someone or someones who you think might benefit from implementing fitness programs for the autism and neurodivergent population in the best ways possible. So let's talk about prioritization, and that just means what the most important exercises are going to be for that individual's program. Now, the first thing, and this is a fundamental tenet of autism fitness programming, is that there is no such thing as an autism specific exercise. We don't need to invent new exercises for the autism or neurodivergent population, and that's because they are human beings with human bodies, with human muscles, human joints, etc. And therefore, they are going to respond to the same muscular stimuli, i.e., strength exercises and some of the power exercises and mobility exercises that we do in our curriculum, and we don't have to start inventing stuff. If someone is purporting to create specialized exercises for the ASD or neurodivergent population, that is most likely, and I mean 100%, garbage, because we don't need to. And we, even further than that, we know the exercises that are already effective from a strength and stability and motor planning standpoint. So all of that work, I won't say the hardest work is implementing it. All of that work has already pretty much been done. So we know what is going to get our autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes stronger. Same thing that's going to get neurotypical individuals stronger. We're looking at the fundamental movement patterns of squat, press, pull, carry, and of course hinge. Now, the way that we implement those particular exercises might be a little bit different, and there might be some more steps to them, and certainly some coaching and cueing practices that we may need to implement for these particular populations that we wouldn't necessarily need to implement for the neurotypical population. But the exercises themselves on a foundational level are going to be the same. So coming back to this idea of fundamental exercises, why are these fundamental? Because these are going to be compound movements, sometimes referred to as multi-joint, but compound movements that, number one, incorporate movements that we do on a daily basis, and two, are going to focus on the major muscle groups of the body as well. So these are going to take priority in our athletes programs, as they would take priority in any other individual who wants to get strong's program, because we want to develop those strength and motor skills so that they generalize, that is the platinum level, generalize to activities of daily living and other novel environments and situations. That's one of the main reasons why we are incorporating fitness programs to begin with. And of course, if we're talking about a sport or activity specific scenario, will these exercises cross over or generalize to those situations as well? Yeah, absolutely. So on a fundamental level, when we're developing a fitness program for our autism and neurodivergent athlete, we want to focus on the basics. So we want to incorporate a squat pattern. We want to incorporate a vertical push, an overhead push. So from the actual exercise selection standpoint, we have our squat, we have our overhead press. Typically we use sand bells or soft bells for that, for the safety component. We have a push-up or a modified push-up. Get to that later. We have our standing band or cable rows, and then our band pull down, or even a cable pull down if that is in fact safe and effective for that particular athlete. Now, when we are developing the program, the majority of time, so let's say you have a 35 or 45 or even 55-minute session, and I'll talk about different strategies for different time frames. The majority of that session time, you want to have your athlete performing strength exercises. Now, if you're familiar with autism fitness programming, you know that we tend to have 3 phases of exercise in a given session. So we have our warm-up and mobility, that's part 1. We have our power exercises, mostly medicine ball based. And then we have our strength exercises. And we spend the majority of the session in those strength exercises because, number 1, our athletes typically have a deficit in strength and motor performance. Number 2, they're going to need a lot more practice and consistency with those exercises so that they can independently master them. And 3, these exercises are going to have the most benefit of any other. So rather than spend half the session warming up, which is an absolute non-necessity for anybody, we're going to spend the majority of the time getting the athlete stronger so that they can move better. And something that I don't know if it's necessarily a common misconception, but something that can be cleared up nonetheless, is the idea that strength-based exercise precludes or doesn't also involve mobility. It does. So you're not only getting the strengthening component, you're getting the mobility component as well. So these two things are not so separate that we need different exercises to get those results as well. A squat is going to involve hip flexion. There's going to be a mobility component to that as well. Same thing with an overhead press or a standing band row. So all of these exercises, even though strength is going to be the predominant factor and the most important factor, it's not as though we're not also getting mobility. And then we also have to ask, well, how much mobility or how much flexibility does this athlete need, and not just take a blanket approach of, well, all mobility is good, so let's include mobility. We really have to understand the reasons behind these different practices or protocols that we're implementing. So when we're looking at a session template, if we're breaking it down like 5, 25, or 35, so 5 minutes warm up, 5 minutes power, and then 25 or 35 minutes with strength development, we're in a pretty good place as far as a program. Now, I mentioned earlier there are times in which we might have a different setup as far as the time in a session. And those times would be when we have an athlete who, from an adaptive perspective, may not be engaged for the entire session or may be averse to a lengthy session. So if you're starting out with a 15 or 20 or 25 or 30-minute session, which is technically abbreviated, or it's a shorter session because for a real training effect, we want to go at least 45 minutes into the 50-minute session. If you can get all that work done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then fantastic, but that's typically not the case. So if you need to do an abbreviated session, you can still set it up so that you have a little bit of mobility, warm up, and then you get to power, and then you spend the majority of that time with strength exercises. You can even forego some of the warm-up exercises and just include your strength exercises. The reason we can do this typically with the autism and neurodivergent population is we're usually not starting out with a very high level of challenge, meaning using big external loads or external weight, dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, sandbags, whatever. Typically, when we're starting with an athlete, they are either detrained or they've never had a fitness program before. So we don't need all that much warm-up time for them to get ready to do their first set and their second set and their third set. And one of the really important things about this is we need a lot of those training sets, 3, 4, 5, even 6 for some athletes, because when they're starting out at the point where they are just beginning to be able to move the weight, however light it is, independently, and they are learning the motor planning and the technical performance of that particular exercise, they're going to need a lot more practice time. So we want higher volume of those exercises. Now, if we look at it from a numbers perspective in volume, let's say we're including those fundamental exercises, the squat, the overhead press, the push-up or modified push-up that we use, where we have the athlete on an elevated surface. I mentioned that earlier. We use a push-up. We can always modify it so that the athlete has their upper body on a box, their knees on the floor. I am not a fan at all of wall push-ups because there's simply not enough of an angle to have any strength benefit from there. But we definitely will go from knees with the upper body on a box. I'll do another video about that, and you can of course find it in the Autism Fitness certification program as well. So we have the push-up, overhead press, our band row, band pull down. By the time we're getting to 3, 4, even 5 sets of each of these exercises, plus a break depending on how long that athlete needs to self-regulate, we're climbing up there in time. We're looking at 30, 35, 45 minutes to get all these done, and to get all of these exercises done in a way that's correct and efficient, as long as we're coaching them appropriately too. So we want to take that into account, that the largest amount of the session time is going to be taken up by those strength exercises. We want enough of the strength exercises that we're covering all the major movement patterns, and we need sufficient sets and repetitions of each of these exercises in order to create, of course, the training effect, where the exercise is developing the strength, the stability, the stamina that will generalize to those activities of daily living. So when we're prioritizing the exercise, and I'm definitely not the first one to say this ever, to use this analogy, but we want to go big rocks, pebbles, sand. So the big rocks are going to be those strength exercises, again, the squat, pushes, pulls, carries, all the things that you find in the Autism Fitness curriculum. And then our pebbles, some of our power-based movements, because there's really no purpose in developing power skills if you don't have the underlying strength. From a physiological standpoint and training standpoint, it just doesn't make sense. And the warm-up exercises are good. We certainly include them in our programming, but we don't want to spend any undue time doing warm-up and mobility exercises, because we're still getting some mobility on the strength exercise side as well. So the priority is getting all of the fundamental movement patterns in at sufficient volume, meaning sets and repetitions, at sufficient performance, meaning if the athlete is not at mastery level with the exercises, which is fine, we may not have independent mastery immediately, but we want to get there. So that's where our coaching and cueing and modification all comes in, all part of the Autism Fitness certification program. And then looking at the program as a whole, like once we have carved out that space and time for the strength exercises, what else comes secondary to that? But those strength exercises are by far going to have the greatest beneficial effect for our athletes, and that's why we focus on those, and that is how we prioritize our programs for the autism and neurodivergent population. I hope that has been clarifying. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement, bringing you more information than you could have ever thought possible about fitness and adaptive PE programs for the autism population. If this has been helpful for you, please leave a comment below. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday Training, leave that in the comments below also. I'll happily answer it. Thank you for watching.